Ananse and the Pot of Wisdom. Once upon a time, in the small village of Nyamkrom, the legendary trickster Kwaku Ananse roamed the land. Now, Ananse was not just any ordinary man. He was a cunning spider, always looking for ways to outsmart those around him. One day, while wandering through the forest, he stumbled upon the most valuable treasure he could ever imagine, the Pot of Wisdom. The Pot of Wisdom was said to contain all the knowledge in the world. Every secret, every clever trick, and every skill known to humankind was held within this magical pot. Ananse's eyes glistened with greed. He thought to himself, if I could gather all the wisdom in the world, I would be the smartest, the most powerful creature alive. No one would ever outsmart me again, not even my wife, also, or my clever son, Ntikuma. So, without hesitation, Ananse took the pot and brought it back to his home, eager to hide it from everyone. He told no one, not his wife, not his children. Each day, Ananse would secretly add more and more wisdom into the pot. He traveled far and wide, collecting knowledge from every corner of the land. Soon, the pot became heavy, filled with all the wisdom he could find. But Ananse wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He wanted to be the only one who knew everything. But as the pot grew heavier, Ananse grew more anxious. He began to fear that his wife, also, or one of his children might discover it. I need to hide this pot, he thought. I must place it where no one can find it but me. And so, one fateful day, Ananse decided to climb the tallest tree in the village and hide the Pot of Wisdom at the very top. That way, no one would ever be able to reach it. He believed he was the only one clever enough to even think of such a plan. The next morning, Ananse woke up before the sun had risen. He grabbed the pot, tied it around his neck with a long rope, and made his way to the tall tree. It was the perfect hiding place, or so he thought. But as Ananse climbed higher and higher, the pot began to get in the way. You see, he had tied the pot in front of him, and with each step, it knocked against his legs, making it hard to move. He stumbled, wobbled, and nearly fell from the tree several times. Sweat dripped from his brow as he muttered angrily to himself, "Why is this so difficult? Surely, I, the great Kwaku Ananse, should be able to climb this tree easily." But no matter how hard he tried, the pot continued to block his way. He stopped for a moment, panting with exhaustion, when suddenly, he heard a small voice from below. "Father." Ntikuma called out, his voice filled with curiosity. "What are you doing?" Ananse grumbled to himself, not wanting to be distracted, but Ntikuma continued, "Father, why don't you tie the pot to your back instead of your front? That way, it won't get in your way as you climb." For a moment, Ananse froze. His son's suggestion made perfect sense. It was such a simple idea, and yet, Ananse, the one who had collected all the wisdom in the world, had not thought of it himself. His face turned red with embarrassment and anger. How could a mere child think of something that he, the great Kwaku Ananse, had not? The thought infuriated him. And then, in a fit of rage and frustration, Ananse did something completely unexpected. With a loud shout, he untied the pot from his neck and hurled it to the ground. The pot flew through the air and crashed into the ground with a deafening sound. It shattered into 1,000 tiny pieces, and in that instant, all the wisdom that Ananse had collected was released. The wisdom inside the pot, no longer contained, was carried away by the wind. It spread to the trees, the rivers, the animals, and most importantly, to the people. Bits of wisdom reached every corner of the world, touching every living thing in its path. Ananse stood at the top of the tree, watching in shock as the very thing he had worked so hard to collect was lost in an instant. He had wanted to keep it all for himself, but now, it was beyond his control. The knowledge he had hoarded was now shared with everyone. As he climbed down from the tree, his son Ntikuma approached him. "Father," Ntikuma said softly, "you cannot keep all the wisdom for yourself. It belongs to everyone. We all have something to learn, and something to teach." Ananse, still angry and embarrassed, could only nod in agreement. His son was right. No one person could possess all the knowledge in the world. True wisdom came from sharing, from listening, and from learning from one another. And so, from that day forward, wisdom was spread across the land, shared among all people, creatures, and places. The cleverness that Ananse had tried to hoard was now in the hearts and minds of everyone, because wisdom, once shared, only grows stronger. As for Ananse, he may have lost a spot of wisdom, but in the end, he gained something far more valuable, the understanding that true wisdom is not in how much you know, but in how much you're willing to share. And that is the tale of Kwaku Ananse and the pot of wisdom, a story that reminds us that knowledge belongs to everyone, and that even the cleverest among us can still learn from others.